This is Nerdhat.
This is Nerdhat.
This is Nerdhat.
Nerdhatters.
Types of nerds.
We are here. It's festival time, baby. RiverRun Festival time. I'm here with my longtime compatriot, brother-in-arms, assorted assistant in villainy. No, partner in villainy. There we go, partner in villainy. I can't think of any other phrases. Anyway, Will and I have been friends for a long damn time. 21 years now. Isn't that hard to believe, Will?
Wow. You did the math.
Yeah, 21 years ago, second semester in college, his freshman year, my sophomore year, we met in English composition.
All summer.
English Comp 102 is where we met at our college.
Failed that class.
I did too, actually. I failed English Comp several times. Go figure. I love writing, but you know, that's how it goes sometimes. I just did. I was very hit or miss in my college career. I don't know. Maybe that's ADHD. Hard to say. Anyway, we're here to talk about the RiverRun International Film Festival. And as you may have already noticed, well, if you're watching this, you'll have noticed that Laura is not here. She has a ton of work to do getting ready for a really big art market this Saturday. By the way, if you happen to be in Cary, North Carolina, and you can attend Spring Days, you can find her there. Check out her booth, purchase some art, chat with her about Nerdhat, tell her you heard it here. She's going to be there, weather permitting, all day Saturday. Spring Days is really cool. Cary, North Carolina does an amazing job putting that on every year. I got the chance to go with Laura last year. It was a lot of fun. So she is busy prepping for that. That's her river run, although it's even bigger because we actually make money with that. Not to say that we're not working towards the potential of making money with the podcast. We are, but not there yet. It's a very steep hill to climb. I've heard so many people talk about that. It's challenging, and there is a pay to play. There's a paywall to a certain extent, unless you just happen to catch a viral boost or maybe just the right networking connection. You never know. And one of the reasons we're excited about RiverRun is just all the connections we've made with filmmakers and with film studios and with animators. Some actors and writers, animators. And it's just really cool. I've been geeking out the last week and a half, just leading up to it and participating in it and getting a chance to connect with all these amazing people and enjoying their art with other people who also enjoy it. That's just really freaking cool. Now I can't speak for you, Will. Did you enjoy? You went to the animated shorts. You got to make it out to those. Did you? And then of course you made it to the party with us. What would you say is your favorite part of the festival? Those parts you were able to attend.
Feeling fancy with these press badges and eating food at the party.
That was pretty darn fun, right? Right?
No, I also enjoyed watching the animated shorts. Yeah,
we felt official. We had our nerd shirts, which we're not wearing tonight, but we had our nerd shirts. All three of us were matching.
Expect about 4 tall.
That was really fun, and we met some new people and reconnected with some that we had met over Instagram, and they might be on the podcast soon. I'm not going to announce that yet, but coming soon, maybe some. So yeah, and damn good food as well. Like they had some shrimp there that was excellent. I think it was spinach dip, delicious, and of course we got two free drinks, beer or wine. Took advantage of that. That was a lot of fun. Will even tried a non-alcoholic beer. That
was terrible.
It was terrible.
Guinness I've ever had.
I apologize for that.
That's the only Guinness I've ever had.
I'll have to give you a sip of a real Guinness because it is much better than that. That was like watered down coffee or something. It was terrible. So yeah, don't try non-alcoholic Guinness. It's not worth it. If you're gonna get a Guinness, go all the way, baby. None of that non-alcoholic shit. Just get you a seltzer or something if you're gonna do that. So
shot.
Anyway, it was fun. Well, the RiverRun International Film Festival. Shout out by the way, to the co-executive directors. I've been saying it wrong for some of our posts on social media. Apologies to Mary. I've been naming Tiffany the executive director, and Mary and Tiffany together are the co-executive directors of the RiverRun Festival this year. They took over on a fairly short notice. The former director resigned back last fall, and they had to take the reins. I'd say they did a pretty good job riding that horse, to continue the analogy. Shout out to Mary Tiffany and to all the other staff and volunteers that made RiverRun possible. And we were excited to just do a small part in helping to promote the films and just enjoy them. We just had a good time.
Dear Nerdhatters, I have good news. The Nerdhat team has officially launched a Patreon account. You can join us at one of 3 different tiers. Tier 1 members get access for only $1 a month to bonus episodes and the Nerd Hatter Chatter discussion group. Tier 2 membership at only $3 per month connects you to bonus episodes, Nerd Hatter Chatter, and voting rights. And finally, if you choose Tier 3, for $5 a month, you get all of the above, and you will be invited to join us once a month for a live stream event. So what are you waiting for? Go to patreon.com/The Nerdhat Podcast to join the Nerd Hatter community today. And now back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Here's our overview for this episode, and it's different than our normal one. First of all, because Laura is not able to be here, but also because we're not going to be battling against one another. I'm not going to be advocating for one and fighting against Will advocating for another. That's going to start back up on, let's see, what is it? May 6th, I think, whatever the first Wednesday in May is. Yeah. That'll be when that kicks back off again, and we're going to be covering Golden Age comics for that episode. We still have to get a hold of them.
Yeah, somehow. Besides,
we'll figure something out.
We can't really fight if I'm not there and present.
That's true. Yeah, it's true.
I'm kidding.
Cannot punch each other. We have 3 parts to this episode. First, we're going to cover some of the animated shorts, and we don't have the time to do justice to all 32 or something like it. It's like 30 animated shorts. There's no way we could do justice to that in a normal episode like this. Maybe we'll have time to do kind of an off-the-cuff deep dive for Patreons only. No promises at this point, but if we can make that happen, we will. Just having fun and talking about it and not worrying too much about editing or any of that, just putting it straight to Patreon. But for our normal episode here, we are going to hit some highlights. So we're going to cover 3 from each category. Yes. We have animated shorts, live action short films, and feature films. And so 3 from each category. And the overall category will be around 15 minutes each. We're going to try to actually do timers on these. And we're going to take about 5 minutes per film, covering a total of about 9 films. And there's some that we've covered in other places that we won't cover in this episode. But yeah, that's our basic overview. Like I said, it's different than our normal episode, so I hope you'll bear with us and enjoy as we discuss these amazing and beautiful films. So I'm going to get my 5-minute timer set up here. All right, so our first category is animated shorts, and Will's going to cover the first 2 films. And I will cover the third. So Will, do you have your little intros brought up, or do you need me to read those off my program here?
Yeah, I lost my schedule book. I'm sorry, and I don't have the website pulled up.
All right, so I'll read the intros, and then you can talk about the films, and we'll go from there. All right, timer starts now. So the first animated short film that we are going to cover is The Death of James. The director is Sam Chu. This comes out of Canada.
Is it Chu? I thought it was Chow.
Could be. I may be saying it wrong.
No.
Chow, Cho, Chu. Apologies, Sam. We're not sure how to pronounce your last name.
Sorry.
I'm going to say Chow. Let's go with Chow. Based on a true story, The Death of James tells the unique journey of 2 young friends grappling with mortality as they are confronted with the impending loss of a cherished pet ferret. Humorous, awkward, and deeply heartbreaking, the film takes an unflinching look at death, loss, euthanasia, and the uncertainties that may or may not follow.
So The Death of James really was comfort food for me because it was funny. It was thought-provoking. There were some pop culture references. I'd say out of everything at RiverRun in the animated shorts department, it was probably the closest to some sort of television show episode. I loved it. Archie stuck his over my head, unfortunately. So in Death of James, yes, it's about a ferret. It's about two friends mourning the impending death of a ferret pet. Do you have any thoughts, Richard?
Yeah, I loved it too, and it rode that perfect line between drama. Well, it's a dramedy, really, because it is about a serious topic. Obviously, it's about death.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved the relationship between the two friends.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. Does it mention his friend's name? Sadly, it does not. I feel bad. I did not write it down, so I cannot recall the name of the other friend in the film. But their dynamic was really cool. You can tell they care about one another. One friend is the generally more emotional and more expressive one. The other is the somewhat more introverted and sullen one. And they have conversations about what it's going to be like when their parents die. And the owner of James, I feel really terrible. I cannot remember the characters' names on there other than the name of the ferret.
I don't know if their names were given. Were they?
You know what? They might not have been. Now that I think about it.
I think the only name in the whole film is James.
That's very possible. Correct us if we're wrong.
Yes.
You've seen it too. But
Mr. Sam.
Regardless, the owner of the ferret, he says that I don't know if I'm even going to cry when my parents die. So he's not someone who typically shows his emotions, and he's never experienced the death of someone close to him before. Neither of these two young men, they're probably in their 20s. They seem to be like early 20s, early to mid 20s, out on their own for the first time. Good buddies. They're broke. Either maybe college age, kind of that time and season of life. And this is their first serious brush with death. I related to it in a lot of ways. Now, obviously, I lost a parent at age 17, so I had experienced more serious loss prior to the age that these two characters were. But I did lose my dog, probably around the same age that these two characters are. And I had to go through the decision of like, do I put my dog down? Do I let him die naturally? In the end, I decided to let him die naturally. And he died on my kitchen floor. He didn't seem to be in too much pain, but that was a difficult decision. I just couldn't bring myself to have him put to sleep. So I was there with him when he passed, and we rented our house at the time, so I didn't have a place I could bury him. So I didn't have to have him cremated, and I took him there and for that. So I definitely related to this film on that side. I was around the same age as these characters when I lost a beloved pet. So I could relate to that. But the humor and like, he's like, man, I know he needs to be put out of his misery. That's the main piece of the film, but he's wrestling with whether he can do it himself. And they're talking about different ways they're going to try to do it. And they find ways to bring humor and levity to that, but somehow that makes the gravitas more gravitas-y. More meaningful.
Yes.
It
Richard.
makes the drama more meaningful. It makes it hits you in the feels. So I liked it too.
David, no, why humans cry.
Oh yeah, I love that. There's a little bit of Arnold impersonation going there, and it's a nice bookend as well, a nice callback. And he does finally cry. Spoiler warning.
Yes.
When his ferret actually dies. But yeah, it was just beautifully done, and very voice acting was amazing.
Oh yeah, so definitely.
It was great. All right, on to our next entry. Start our timer here. Night at the Rest Area. So our director is Saki Muramoto. This comes out of Japan. What little bit of dialogue there was in Japanese. I don't remember if they had subtitles. They didn't really need to bother either way because it's just like the bus driver saying, normal, like, hey, we're here at the rest area. You have this long to get your stuff and come back. Yeah. And then when they come back in, he's like, hey, it's time to go, basically.
Thanks for getting back on time.
Otherwise,
I think that was subtitled, but that was the only dialogue.
But the synopsis here is: at a midnight highway rest area, the weary travelers each quietly relax their minds. A brief moment spent with complete strangers is lonely yet somehow comforting. So what were your thoughts, Will?
I really loved it. The art style. It was actually encouraging because it wasn't. They didn't try to make the art style absolutely perfect. And Richard, my tired brain is having a brain fog fart. What do you call it when things are the same on both sides?
Symmetrical?
Yeah. They weren't trying to make everything symmetrical. What I'm trying to say is that encouraged me because, you don't have to be a perfect artist to make something good. And I know that's random, but yeah, that's something I picked up. I love this thing. I love how all the characters interacted with each other. It was humorous. I think you and I were talking the other day about how it made us want to go to Japan and experience the culture.
Yeah, and honestly, it just made me want to hang out. Maybe you want to go take the bus with a bunch of people and hang out at a rest area. Honestly, it was just very peaceful and there's just something very comforting. You're going on those night travels and then you're around other people. Obviously, there's potential threat to you any time like that, but it was just interesting, and you see the way different people react with personal space. There's some really good visual gags, quite a few, like funny visual gags are just relatable across multiple cultures. You don't have to speak Japanese, as there wasn't much dialogue anyway, and so much of it was communicated visually and through the body language of the characters. I thought it was great.
It was. I want to point out, Richard, that a boring American bus stop does not have a ramen machine.
That's right. And it played a song while it made the ramen too.
That was very Japanese.
That was pretty
great.
cool.
It was great.
Yeah, and then that person actually wasn't from the bus. I didn't realize that at first, and then he or she goes out and feeds their kid later, and the kid takes one bite and then doesn't want the rest.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it was a mom. Like, she walked so carefully, like walked over the chain dividing the parking lot from the sidewalk, and just walking so carefully not to spill the ramen. And then her kid takes one bite and just like, no more.
I think we forgot to say something earlier. These are all anthropomorphic characters. They're all animals.
Yes,
cartoon animals. And the two we were just talking about, the mother and child, were like, I think they were hippos.
That sounds right. Or rhinos, either hippos or rhinos.
Okay, I don't remember horn. But anyway, I couldn't tell. I just assumed it was the dad. It probably was the mom. I have no idea.
I mean, they're not, as Jeff Goldblum would say, they're not going to go around the park and pick up the dinosaur skirts. Yeah, so
you might think alike.
Unless you hear their voices, you're not going to know. There were a few grunts and things like, and you could kind of hear whether it was a masculine grunt or a feminine grunt. But for the most part, it wasn't, it didn't have any dialogue, which was perfect, honestly. And the music was very pleasant, and the animation style was simple yet very consistent, and it felt very comfortable, I think, if you could say that about an animation style. Oh,
it was. I don't know it on DVD if they put it out. But anyway, I love the hamster man that just slept on the bus the entire time and just...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wakes up at the very end. Spoiler warning, by the way. Wakes up at the very end. He's like, huh? What happened?
Yeah.
Just snored through the whole thing. I love the little scenes where it was so cold and windy, and you have the 5 people who are standing outside, and they're just trying to weather it. So, yeah. That was very pleasant. I think overall that might be my favorite of the animated shorts that we saw in program 2.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, I just really enjoyed it. It was just, I like wanted to be there, if that makes sense, like in the cartoon. So our final entry here is called Waterlogged, and in this case, we actually got to meet the filmmaker afterwards. She was there with her boyfriend and another close friend, both of whom had helped her a lot during the final year of making this. And this is directed by Danielle Goldwert. Mm-hmm. She's she's currently residing in New York, but I think originally from Florida, if I'm not mistaken. The story goes, a climate scholar confronts the haunting reality of his research as surreal environmental catastrophes unfold around him. blurring the line between his personal despair and the global human experience. The story dives into the psychological toll of inaction, asking whether hope can be found amid the rising tides of collective negligence. And this was classified as a student film. I don't know if Danielle is actually studying art currently at NYU. I know her major is social psychology. She's working on a PhD in that. But she has studied art at the undergraduate level, and just from what she told me, we actually did a brief interview today, which will be including part of that.
Nice.
Following this segment, as an insert into the episode. She did study art at the undergrad level at least, and just has always loved being crafty and doing different types of art. She does a little bit of painting. But for this film, she taught herself, like this began during the pandemic, and she was spending a lot of time at home back in 2020, as a number of us were. And she's like, well, she'd always loved stop motion animation. She's like, why not
Nice.
teach myself how to do this? She mentioned some references, some influences. The Fantastic Mr. Fox was an influence of hers. Cool. Anomalisa, a Charlie Kaufman film, was another influence. She also really enjoyed Isle of Dogs, which is a second stop motion film. Both Fantastic Mr. Fox and Isle of Dogs were directed by Wes Anderson. It was a very unique, distinctive style that somehow, even though most of his films are live action, somehow that seems to fit
I love
the
dogs.
world of stop motion.
Have
you seen that?
Isle of Dogs.
Isle of Dogs.
Yeah, I saw that. I loved Isle of Dogs.
Oh, nice. So those are things she mentioned as influences. So we saw this, and it does very much explore the psyche of this climate scientist, and you see the despair and ultimately both the despair. I didn't ask her this specifically, but both, it seemed to me, the way I interpreted it, both the despair and just the impending crisis were ultimately visualized by just rising water. So in this guy's house, as he's trying to type out this letter or this book about the climate crisis, water is rising in his home, and eventually, up to above his head, eventually, and like he's in over his head. But the thing he kept coming back to as he's trying to write there on his old style typewriter is, someone needs to do something. Who's going to do something? Someone needs to do something. And this is one of the things that Danielle is choosing to do about it, and choosing to speak about it through art. She has done quite a bit of work with climate scientists, and in particular studying the psychology of the climate crisis. She's continuing to do some work on that, I believe at the grad level as well, as she studies her PhD. But yeah, I enjoyed this film, and she did almost all of it herself. It took her about 4 years. She said she had a little bit of help with sound design and editing, I think, and obviously a lot of cheerleading from her friends, and then a lot of like showing to her family and her friends, like, hey, what do you think about this scene? Do you think this looks better or that looks better? So a lot of input from friends and family, but the work itself, she did the lion's share of it on her own. So very impressive. Nerdhatters, I am here with Danielle Goldwert. Am I saying that correctly, Danielle?
Yes.
She is the writer, director, producer, artist, and almost everything else for the film Waterlogged. It's an animated short that premiered, right, at RiverRun International Film Festival. I mean, I'm sure you showed it to some of your friends and family, but official premiere at RiverRun International Film Festival this past week. And Will and I got a chance to see it in person and to talk to Danielle afterwards. So she agreed to come on the podcast, and thank you for taking a few minutes out of your busy schedule for us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Absolutely.
So, how'd you get here? You told me a little bit of your story when we talked in person, but how did NYU Ed Psych? Did I get that right? An Ed Psych major?
Social psych.
Social psych. I'm sorry. Social psych. I was close. How did a social psychology major at NYU end up doing a stop motion animation film?
Well, this process actually started back when I was an undergrad psych student at University of Miami. So that was back in I started there in 2017, but 2020 during the pandemic, that was when this film kind of was born or started being born. And it kind of came about. I've always been interested in stop motion. I've always kind of like dabbled in it and loved watching it and reading about it. And then having so many hours trapped inside my apartment just seemed like the perfect opportunity to say, like, all right, let's write a story, let's figure something out, and just start building and buying the camera lenses and just start experimenting with it. So obviously it had nothing to do with, well, I can't say it had nothing to do with what I was studying. I study psychology, but I study the psychological underpinnings of climate action. So as you'll know from the plot of the movie, it's about a climate scholar confronting their environmental despair. And that was something that I was obviously familiar with and interested in researching throughout my academic career. And I also was majoring in art. So it kind of seemed like the perfect natural blend of those two interests.
So were you minoring in psych there at Miami, or
was
it double major?
Okay, well, I was double majoring in psychology and art and minoring in philosophy, English literature, business management, and political science.
Okay.
Yeah, it kind of
quite a bit.
somehow blended all my interests. Yeah, there's a bit of philosophy, existentialism in there, political, English writing. Yeah, it kind of all fit together.
So on the artistic side, I noticed from your Instagram, you also like to paint. Are there any other mediums that you work with outside of stop motion now and painting?
I was really into sculpting for a while. I guess sculpting kind of goes with stop motion. And I credit a lot of the courses I took in my undergrad art career as like helping me develop the skills I would eventually need to learn how to, I was sculpting full size, and then I had to teach myself how to do that in miniature. But yeah, I mean, some of my paintings I actually ended up using as kind of like inserts into the stop motion film. So it was kind of a cool way to blend both of my interests in that sense. But I've always loved anything crafty, anything I can do with my hands. So whether that's painting, sculpting, scrapbooking, whatever it is, I just love learning new techniques and experimenting with that sort of thing.
So on the stop motion side, you mentioned that you had always been intrigued by it, enjoyed stop motion films. Do you have particular studios or films that you enjoy? I know Wallace and Gromit is an easy one to point to. A lot of people know Wallace and Gromit, but were there any others, or was that one that influenced you at all?
I really love the Leica studio, and I watch anything they put on YouTube with their behind the scenes or how did they do it. I spent hours and hours trying to study their techniques. And I love Fantastic Mr. Fox. So I had a book about the making of that, which was really informative for for my process. And Charlie Kaufman's one of my favorite directors, writers of all time. So of course, Anomalisa was a huge inspiration for me as well.
Okay. To my shame, I have not caught up with those two yet. Nerdhatters, I am jumping in here real quick just to let you know that the remainder of this interview should be available soon. I'm getting permission from Danielle, and once she's given that, we will release the full interview in at least audio format, if not also video format, depending on what she approves. So just keep an eye and /ear out for that coming soon. Nerdhatters, we're back after a break. We had a few technical difficulties, but it came literally right at the halfway point of the episode, so it was kind of perfect timing, so to speak. So we are going to get now into the next segment, which is live action short films. And of the three of us, I was the only one that attended these. So this is going to be kind of me running the show, but Will, feel free to pop in with any thoughts or questions as you like.
Jokes and I'm
first
kidding.
one. Yeah, no, your usual fare. So I'm going to start with a comedic short. This was part of the Narrative Shorts Program 1, A Break for Laughter. I'm not going to go into the film Need here because we did an entire interview with Timothy Michael Cooper, the director there, and we talk extensively about Need, so go check that out if you want to hear more about Need. I enjoyed many of these. I also thought about covering either What's the Deal with Birds or Give Mom the Talk, but ultimately settled on Cucumber. So this is actually somehow from both Norway and Japan. I'm not sure how that worked exactly, if it was like Japanese people living in Norway, if it was filmed in Norway. I'm not sure about that part, but it says it's from both Norway and Japan. But Kappa? No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But it was in Japanese with subtitles, and there were Japanese actors. So I'm just... Oh, I see. The director... I don't think the director is Japanese. Harald Holman. Yeah, that's definitely not a Japanese name. So maybe that's why it's also from Norway. So he may be Norwegian. So Harald Holman, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. So it's about a young man named Shintaro. Shintaro receives a homegrown cucumber from the older lady next door, and his crippling anxiety convinces him that he has to reciprocate the gesture.
Okay.
So we have a young man who's battling with severe social anxiety. He has a hard time even walking out his front door. He doesn't want to be seen by anyone. He doesn't want to talk to anyone. The only time he goes out at night to go shopping at a local, what appears to be a local convenience store, or at least the Japanese equivalent, to get his food. Yeah, it was really good. And he's very much an introvert, very, very anxious. And this is another film that really did a good job balancing comedy and drama. I feel like sometimes comedy opens up the emotions of the audience in a way that just straight drama cannot. So it balanced humor and drama. So we find out, spoiler warning by the way, over the course of this 11-minute short, that a big part of the reason this young man is holed up in home and has anxiety is because he had a verbally abusive mother and possibly physically abusive as well. At the very least, she was very demanding, very perfectionistic, used a lot of shame against her son. And we find out in part that this backstory, as he forced, I forget what the impetus is initially, but he's forced to go outdoors at one point, and he accidentally runs into his neighbor, who is an older woman, and she's like, "Oh, you're out." It's like, "I see you sometimes. Go to the convenience store." And he says very little. He just, yep. He's got his head bowed, and she just happens. I guess she does a lot of gardening. She just happens to have some fresh cucumbers with her, and she offers him a fresh cucumber. He's like very apologetic, very like head bowed, says very little. He's like, "Oh, thank you, like arigato." Takes it and runs back inside to the safety of his tiny little apartment. And his apartment, you see like trash everywhere. He's not a complete slob, but he's so afraid of going outside that he's just got like, they're sealed, but like bags of trash rather than walking it out to the dumpster. He's keeping it in his apartment. I'm just sure it stinks, but he's there. He sleeps, he eats. I don't know what he does for work or income. They don't really address that, but he's at home most of the time. And this takes place, I think, maybe in the 90s, like mid to late 90s, because he has an old style PC on which he plays. I think it was a PC, and I believe he also had like an old style video game system. So he's like playing video games, or he's on the computer. Yeah, I believe it is the 90s, because they show him using a browser at one point. I think they looked something up, and it looked like the old like Netscape or something. Just old 90s style. So it does take place. I don't know if this is autobiographical for the writer or not. I don't know if the director and writer are the same person. I'm assuming the writer is Japanese and somehow got connected with the Norwegian director. I don't know. But needless to say, this hits on themes of like depression and social anxiety, obviously, and eventually he is able to overcome his anxiety enough to come out and say thank you to the woman. And this is where a lot of the humor comes in, because like it gets very, at least in his mind, it's very melodramatic, and they even throw a little bit of what seemed to like a couple of anime references in there. Just kind of like the zoom in, like, oh, just, it was very funny. But yeah, I liked it. So Cucumber, check it out virtually on riverrunfilm.com.
I will try to do
until
that.
the 27th. Yeah, so these were all comedic. I will give you a heads up. There's no nudity or anything, but Giving Mom the Talk and Booties do definitely have sexual themes. But I felt they very appropriately walked the line there. There was no gratuitous. There was no nudity. There was nothing gratuitous, and they both had a pretty good message actually as well, and they were funny. But yeah, there are a couple that deal with sexual themes. There's also one where an old lady seeks, I don't know, it's twisted. She's like seeks revenge when she gets ghosted by basically the equivalent of a Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist person selling a lamp. That was interesting. So anyway, on to the next section of shorts. Let me find it here. So this is the North Carolina Shorts Program 2, and the one I've selected to talk about out of this one, two actually. One is Order for Ben. Order for Ben had two directors, Christina Arjona and Adam Plant. This is made here in the USA. The story goes, Ben, a trans man with a bright and joyful life and community, agrees to meet his traditional father for coffee after 7 years of estrangement.
What is a traditional father?
So the idea that, as the story goes, like his...
Oh, no, the father is traditional. I thought it was like biological
his father,
fathers. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just traditional more in his cultural and cultural beliefs. They don't really get into whether it's religious in origin or not. They just...
I misunderstood.
They portray that the transition, like when Ben transitioned, it was very hard because his father grew up thinking he had a daughter, had a little girl. This is as the story goes, and he expresses just it's hard for him to communicate. Initially, he received it very poorly, got very angry, just basically pushed away Ben. And Ben left the home, and they mentioned 7 years, so I'm guessing that Ben has been gone from the home for 7 years, and the mom handled the transition a little easier than the father did. But 7 years later, the father has made an overture, and we start with the two of them meeting for coffee, and Ben goes up to the barista. The barista recognizes pretty much right away that Ben is trans and is probably getting ready to have a hard conversation. So the barista is extra kind. They ask the typical, name for the order. And this is where he says, Ben, I picked it myself. So that's the clue in that this is a story about a trans man and his relationship with his father. And we see as it goes on that the father is trying to reconnect, but some of the old anger and fear comes out in the first conversation, and that he kind of drives away his child, and that estrangement kind of continues for a couple more months, but he keeps calling, he keeps trying, and eventually Ben picks up the phone, and then they start reconnecting again through coffee. And it takes place over the course of an entire year. Like they go through the seasons, and they use a different seasonal drink. They kind of have an overhead shot of a different seasonal drink, so it's like fall, winter, spring, summer. So over the course of a year, Ben and his father continue meeting, and like the father's just gradually getting adjusted, can't quite come around to calling Ben yet, because Ben had, a girl's name for so many years growing up, and the father can't quite adjust to that. The closest he can get initially is calling him B. But then, and this has already been established in the film, Ben, when the memories of just the trauma of how his father reacted when he came out come up, he starts to have panic attacks. And they did a really good job communicating that through film. Like they would zoom in and it would get kind of blurry, and just it zooms in on the sound of the heartbeat. And the actor Adam Plant, who also wrote this, and just did a really good job of portraying that. And I don't know how autobiographical this was for Adam. I got the sense that there was definitely some autobiographical elements in it. At the very least, is something that Adam could relate to. So it may be that he'd even had some panic attacks in the past. But as he's having one in front of the father finally gets down and he's like, "What's happening?" It looks like a heart attack on the surface. So he's like, "Am I gonna lose my child? Is my child gonna die right in front of me?" And it's just like, he's like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And he finally uses the name. He's like, "Hey, Ben, are you okay?" And Ben snaps out of it and looks up at his dad, and his dad just hugs him and just tells him how loved he is. He's like, "You're so loved." And they do a flashback to when the father is holding what then he would have seen as his daughter, but it's his child. He's holding his child as a baby and saying the same words, like, "You were so loved, mommy loves you, daddy loves you." And then they flash back to the present where he's saying that to Ben and just hugging Ben. And that made me cry. Like, it's just this, regardless of what you may think about trans issues and trans activism or anything like that, those issues are difficult. They're hard. The core of this was just a father and his son just reconnecting and just a parent and a child in that relationship. And I don't know, just that part, it was just really beautiful, and it made me cry several times, I think. And they continue on to show like how things are getting better. They're having coffee more, and life goes on, kind of thing. So just very well written and acted. The story was very concise. I know I've gone a little bit over my time here, but that one really hit me, and it was very, very well done. So, order for Ben.
So, only because it's a similar topic, I did think about giving some shout outs, just some titles, no descriptions, of some of my other favorite animated shorts. I'm just going to say that I also like Drag Fox. I love the stop motion animation. Was it clay? Stop motion animation, if I can talk straight. And the song and dance number, really enjoyed it. Anyway, back to you, Richard.
Yeah, and the performance of Ian McKellen.
Oh, yes, yes.
I mean, as always. Yeah, and if we do get a chance to do a deeper dive, like just kind of more casually for Patreon, we'll talk about that at some point. But yeah, for today, for sake of time, we're going to move on. But yes, I did enjoy that one as well. Let's see. So our third and final live action short that we're going to cover is We Are Kings. I had a chance to sit down with one of the actresses from this film, Yvonne
Nice.
Chan. We did about a 20-minute interview, included a little bit of it on our Instagram, just a little clip, and then we're going to include a little bit longer clip here after this segment in tomorrow's episode. But We Are Kings was directed by Frank Sun, who grew up here in North Carolina. It takes place in Carrboro. I'm not sure if that's where Frank grew up or just somewhere similar, but the film itself takes place in Carrboro, North Carolina, which I think I've been to at least once.
I got a speeding ticket there.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And I'm assuming it was probably filmed there as well. But the story is that two best friends, Lynn and Waleed, pirate DVDs at Lynn's mom's Chinese restaurant. Lynn's crush, Amber, walks in, and Lynn, embarrassed that his mother is a waitress, awkwardly navigates around Amber's probing. Unexpectedly, Amber pulls Lynn out of the restaurant to go for a drive. Lynn leaves Waleed and his mother behind and finds himself on a ride that he's not ready for. So these two friends, Lynn and Waleed, the actors did a really good job, and obviously their Lynn's mom is played by Yvonne. And I talked more about that with her, and we'll have that full interview on YouTube at some point, hopefully later this month. Short segment will be included here. But Yvonne plays Lynn's mother, and she works there at this Chinese restaurant. I believe it's Chinese. Don't know if they specify it, but that was the impression I got. Anyway, Lynn and this is back in the 90s. They're carrying a computer to Lynn's mom's restaurant. I guess because I don't know if they didn't have internet at home or what, but they carry the computer to the restaurant, and they're burning these pirated DVDs. One of them is a porno. we find out that they don't show any scenes or anything. You find out that that's what it is, and the others are a couple of movies that Lynn wants this girl he likes to see. So he's hoping to. I think one is like Forrest Gump. She's like, she's never seen Forrest Gump. Hopefully not. That would be terrible. And then I forget the name of the other, but there were two movies that he was hoping she'd see. But then she unexpectedly walks into the restaurant with her father, and Lynn is like trying to hide. He's like, get down. And they like hide under the table, him and Waleed. And he's waiting for the pirated porn to finish burning, as well as, and then he's going to start in on the 2 movies for this girl that he likes. And eventually she comes over, she realizes he's over there. She finds him, and he's embarrassed. He's been hiding under the table, so he made it worse. But she asks him to go on a ride with her, and she just bails on her dad there too. They were having like a meal together. She just bails on her dad, but he likes her. And initially, I think she invited both him and Waleed. At least that was what Waleed assumed. But Lynn is like, "Hey, Waleed, hey, can you stay here? Can you stay here and finish burning those other DVDs?" And Waleed kind of understands, but he's still disappointed. And Lynn goes off in this car with what we get the impression is a drug dealer, like a teenage or maybe early 20s drug dealer. And this girl that he likes either knows him well or might even be his girlfriend. We don't entirely know for sure. Could be his sister. They don't specify, unless I missed that part. But Lynn quickly gets in over his head. They try to get him to smoke weed. He's never, he tries to pretend like he's done it before. He hasn't. And he chokes and coughs and stuff. Apparently, we find out he's had a deal with this guy to help distribute and resell the pirated porn videos. So it's like, stupid teenager crap. Like, why are you? And over the course of this car ride, Lynn realizes, oh, this is not a good life path. What am I doing? Why am I doing this with this guy? Why am I doing this for this guy? I'm sitting here in a car with probably someone who's a drug dealer, or at the very least does drugs, and he's also doing, like, why have I? We get the impression he was maybe just doing it to get closer to her, not necessarily because it's something he would normally do. And you see him realizing on his face is like, what am I doing? Like, I left my friend behind for this. I might be hurting my mom by doing this kind of crap. So he finally is like, hey, stop the car. I know. Turn around. I want to go back. Take me back to the restaurant. The girl sticks up from her bitch. He's like, hey, take him back to the restaurant. Like, come on. So he gets back to the restaurant, and he just kind of comes back in. And I don't know, his mom knew half of this was going on, but he kind of comes back, and you can see on his face that he's got a renewed appreciation for what he has. And Waleed has already gone to that point, but Waleed went ahead and burned the DVDs for him. He's like, hey, these are for your girlfriend, for your girlfriend. So Waleed, even though he was disappointed, he still came through for his friend. And we see that he's come back to appreciate what he's got. And then it finishes with his mom getting him some food. It's like, hey, she tells the cook, it's like, hey, cook up some beef noodles. He's like, hey, can you make one for Waleed too? I'm going to go bring it to him. So we see him reconnect. He's going to reconnect with his friend as well. And that's how it ends. Nice. So I really liked it. It was really well done. And after this, like I said, we'll include a short segment from my conversation with Yvonne, and the full interview will come later on YouTube. Nerdhatters, I am here with Yvonne Chan. Did I say your name correctly, or is it Chan?
Good enough. Yeah, usually I just say Yvonne Chan. The Chinese pronunciation.
Yvonne Chan, okay.
Yeah, is Chan.
Chan, okay. I had a feeling. I was like, I always like saying people's names the way they prefer, or the authentic way. But usually I have to ask. So I'm here with Yvonne Chan, and we met on the second day of the RiverRun International Film Festival. She was actually talking to Timothy Cooper, who I'd interviewed just the day before. So Yvonne gave me her business card, and we got connected over Instagram, and this has turned into an interview. So Yvonne, thank you so much for joining us here on the Nerdhat podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's great to see you again.
Absolutely. So how did you enjoy your, I know you had, 3 or 4 days at RiverRun here in Winston? Is that about right?
Yeah, I had a great time, actually. And I would highly encourage all creatives, people in the industry, to I know it's a luxury to do so, but perhaps once a year, just to, actually allocate time away. And I would encourage going someplace you've never been, or at least away from your home market. So there's a full concentration and presence to really take it all in.
Was this your first time in Winston-Salem?
Yeah, in my prior life, I've had a few conferences in the Research Triangle. So, but never out here. Yeah, so it's really cool.
Well, welcome back. And I know you're not there today, but welcome back. Past tense. So tell me about the entry in the festival that you were there to represent. We Are Kings.
Yeah, We Are Kings. It's a comedic short film written and directed by Frank Sun. And so I'm one of the actors in the film. Ostensibly, it's a coming of age story based on his childhood growing up in North Carolina. And for me, I see it as a love letter, so to speak, to his childhood best friend and to a certain degree, his first crush and his mom. And there are so much subtext. We could go into that later. But yeah, it's a fun, heartfelt, feel-good film.
Well, I will actually get a chance to see it tonight at the second showing, and I know it's also showing virtually. So for those of our listeners who are hearing this on the 23rd, it's still playing virtually at this point at the RiverRun. You just have to go to RiverRun.com and buy yourself a ticket. It's only available through the 27th, so catch it while you can. Do you know, I know that's often the goal, do you know if it's been picked up by any streaming services at this point? If it might show anywhere in the future?
Yeah, we just got wind that we'll have our New York premiere at a pretty snazzy festival. I don't think I'm allowed to actually say it out loud.
Not allowed to announce it yet. Okay.
Yeah. But that's in June, and it'll be a little bit of a homecoming, and that's our
nice.
base. It'll be fun. Yeah. And then in terms of longer term distribution plan, that was one thing that was really good about the festival. You do get to talk to so many industry people. Normally, it's more of a topic for feature films, but alas, there are some potential options for short films as well. So that's exciting.
Yeah, I know. That's something I would love to see more of now, dipping my feet in to short films here in the festival and getting a chance to talk to the filmmakers. I'm like, these need to be seen. There should be, if there isn't already, there should be a streaming service just for short films. Like, hey, some techie out there, you need to start that if you haven't already.
Yeah.
Because I know, directors, actors, you put so much of yourselves and the writers and just everyone involved put so much yourselves into these films and just you'd love to get them seen, I imagine, more than anything else. And like festivals are great, but if it doesn't have a life beyond that, I imagine that has to be a little.
Dear Nerdhatters, I have good news. The Nerdhat team has officially launched a Patreon account. You can join us at one of 3 different tiers. Tier 1 members get access for only $1 a month to bonus episodes and the Nerd Hatter Chatter discussion group. Tier 2 membership at only $3 per month connects you to bonus episodes, Nerd Hatter Chatter, and voting rights. And finally, if you choose Tier 3, for $5 a month, you get all of the above, and you will be invited to join us once a month for a live stream event. So what are you waiting for? Go to patreon.com/The Nerdhat Podcast to join the Nerd Hatter community today. And now back to our regularly scheduled programming.
All right, so our next segment here. So we're going to discuss feature films now that we covered. And we were going to do the Pantone Guy, which Laura had seen, but since he's not able to be here, we will not cover that one at this time, maybe at a later date. But we are in its place. I'm going to cover 3 of the feature films that I got a chance to see this past week. One is Time Travel is Dangerous.
I really wanted to see that one, but I couldn't make it.
Well, you can still see it now, I think,
Great.
Virtually, if you got your press tickets. But that one,
Yeah,
it was very pleasant, very enjoyable. Like, I've been back and forth on exactly what to rate it. I actually did a little out of the theater review where I gave it 3 nerd hats. I think I'm going to bump it up to 3.5 because it was better than a 3, I think. It's a British comedy. It's kind of in the vein of, here we go. I found the synopsis here. So it's kind of in the vein of Doctor Who and the British British The Office. Those are the two references that connected to me. It reminded me of both of those. It was directed by Chris Reading, who also recently directed a short film for the Aliens franchise, which I want to go see. I want to find a way to see that if I can. But anyway, he directed this. It was written by the Shakespeare sisters, and I have to wonder, it's like, are you descendants of the Shakespeare? Like, they probably are, and they're writers, of course. But yeah, written by the Shakespeare sisters, directed by Chris Reading. Story goes, the Beth friends, Ruth and Meg.
Do they talk
Best
like that in the
friend.
movie? What's happening right now?
Best friends Ruth and Megan run a vintage shop in North London. When they stumble across a time machine, they embark on trips to the past, borrowing, quote-unquote, items to sell in the present. They don't want to change history or rob banks. They just want to find a nice lamp without getting sucked into the hellish time-space vortex that is the Unreason.
We just want to find a time machine.
So they found it out by the trash. Like, the creator...
Well, I'm sorry.
It was
Doc
just sitting
Brown,
out by the trash bin.
I must destroy it.
Where's the DeLorean? Well, this one was not a DeLorean. It was a souped-up bumper car.
Wow.
They're rummaging through the trash trying to find potential things to sell in their little... they call it vintage shop. Some people, I guess, call it like charity shops there in the UK. Probably the equivalent of our thrift shop term.
Yeah,
They're basically
probably.
a thrift shop. What we would call a thrift shop over here, and they sell old and used items. And as they're going through the trash one day, they find it. Now that we don't see them finding it, we find out about that later. But much of the action is interspersed with kind of office-style interviews where the two of them are sitting down with a film crew, and it's supposed to be like a documentary film crew following them in their exploits. So we see them get into this time machine. They go back to like the Middle Ages, and they're in their modern clothes. I think this is supposed to be like maybe the aughts or the 20. I don't know exactly when the modern day is supposed to be taking place. But they go back to like the Middle Ages, and they're just like going around to like people, Vikings and things are like fighting off in the distance and killing each other. They go back to the Western U.S. at one point, and like some guy gets gunned down in the middle of the street. And they're just like, oh. But then they go up and steal his hat later and take it back to sell. It's like, we might be able to sell this later.
Most valuable
might have to clean it first. So it's just typical understated British humor with, kind of that documentary style, The Office approach, and some of the quirky sci-fi elements, including kind of the pleasantly low budget special effects that Doctor Who often has, like purposefully low budget but fun. I had fun watching this. It did probably drag on just a little bit. It might have worked better as a 1 hour TV pilot than a feature film overall. But some of the humor I probably didn't quite get because I'm not British. But for the most part, I enjoyed it. It was quirky and fun. Yeah, I think I would see it again sometime. This is just a nice escapist comedy, and you have sort of like a science guild, one of the founding member of whom created the time machine. And we find out over the course of the film that he and one of his co-hosts on a science television show traveled back in time together, but they got stuck in this unreason and they don't ever want to go back there. But then I get the two friends mixed up, either Ruth or Megan. One of the two friends gets accidentally sucked into it, and then the other friend has to come and rescue her, and also has to fix problems that they have caused by going back in time too many times so they don't destroy the universe as well.
Okay.
So that was very pleasant. I enjoyed it. So I'm going to up my rating a little bit from my Instagram post to a 3.5 Nerdhats for that one. The second one, let me see if I can find it here. Got my bookmarks. Second one here is Motherland. So Motherland was directed by Eben Matthews, who I actually had a chance to interview earlier today. I'm going to be including a short segment of that here in the episode, and we'll share the full interview at a later time on our YouTube channel. Eben Matthews, this was his first feature film, and Motherland takes place in an alternate present society where the state frees parents from the burden of raising children. A rule enforcer in this society learns a shocking truth that sparks her rebellion. Features performances from Miriam Silverman, Nestor Carbonell, and Holland Taylor.
I assumed that Motherland was a reference to Russia, and I think I was wrong.
No. no Russian overtones that I caught, but the idea of a authoritarian state, very much so. So although it appears to be run by women in this case, so it's at the very least the founder, like the original revolutionary, which supposedly took place 100 years prior to when the film takes place, was someone called Mama Cain, and her mantra was freedom from all, freedom for all. The idea being that the state is going to free all women of the burden of having to raise their children, and they will raise the children for them, so that the women ostensibly are then free to do more what they want, which turns out to actually be just serving the state, more or less.
I think I watched the Star Trek episode about that.
Yeah, like the themes definitely ring familiar. I think it's a theme that things like the Twilight Zone or kind of speculative fiction in that world tend to come back to. The tonality reminded me a little bit of The Handmaid's Tale. I've seen just a little bit of The Handmaid's Tale, just the tonality and some of the ideas that it's playing around with, but it seems to be coming from a different perspective. The Handmaid's Tale, to be sure. But this was very well done. The cinematography was good. The music was good. The acting was excellent. You know, the three main actors are pretty well known. Nestor Carbonell played a main character in the series Lost. Holland Taylor, I can't recall. She's one of those actresses where I know I've seen her in things. I was like, I recognize her face. It's like, I know I've seen you in movies before. And she's just had a long and storied career. So she's a well-known actress in Hollywood. Not what you would quote unquote call an A-list star, but just someone that you like. I automatically recognized her. I was like, oh yeah, but I couldn't, maybe to my shame, I couldn't place what I had seen her in. I just knew I had seen her in things before. And I might have seen Miriam Silverman in something, I'm not entirely sure, but she apparently is a Tony Award-winning actress. Just recently, I think right before production, Evan was saying won a Tony Award.
Is she also a comedian?
So I don't know.
I've heard of
no,
a
you're probably thinking
comedian.
You're probably thinking of Sarah.
Yeah, I am. I'm sorry.
But yeah, I don't know if there's any relation. They don't look anything alike, but yeah, it's hard to say. Anyway, that kind of ties up Motherland, and you can hear more when I release the full interview with Evan Matthews coming out later on YouTube. So, and of course, that is also available virtually right now on riverrunfilm.com. Nerdhatters, I am here with Evan Matthews, the director of the feature film Motherland, which played this past week at the RiverRun International Film Festival and is currently playing virtually at riverrunfilm.com. Evan, thank you for taking a few minutes out of your busy schedule to sit down with us at the Nerdhat podcast.
I'm really happy to be here with you. Excited.
So tell us a little bit about Motherland. What's it about from a filmmaker's perspective?
Yeah, it's a drama thriller, and it takes place in this alternate present reality where Motherland has this society where parents are forbidden to know or raise their own children. And our main character, Cora, makes this discovery that changes her worldview and how she works within the system, and wants to pretty much find a way to circumvent it with her elite access to everything. So it's kind of a wild ride with some twists and turns. It's a deeply heartfelt drama, and it's very light dystopian sci-fi world. So yeah, it's been a great immersive experience for people so far with this theatrical run. And I think that's, if you get a chance to see it in theaters, that's a great way to go about it before it goes to like streaming platforms or whatever. Mm-hmm. Whatever the future holds for it.
Yeah, hopefully you guys, I mean, I know that's the hope for most independent filmmakers, that your film continues to be seen, whether that's a limited release or wider release or eventually streaming. So I know I'm sure that's a hope you have for Motherland.
Yeah. And, one of those things when it comes to distribution, we have a bunch of different conversations we're having with distributors. So those are very active, and we're very excited about the opportunities there. But we're really focused on the film festival run because we really want to have the theater experience for people, have a grassroots campaign, see how it does on the festival circuit. And so far, the movie's been really, really well received by audiences. We're getting just fantastic feedback. It's really been blowing our minds. Mine especially, because you're so close to the movie and the making of it and the process that you don't really know what it is anymore. So it's incredibly refreshing and rewarding to experience the movie all over again through the eyes of the viewers and the audience. And they get to add their creativity to the film and then reflect that back to the filmmaker. It's a really fun experience. It's kind of addictive too, because you get to share
Get
in
immediate
that
feedback.
experience. Yeah, you get that feedback after all this time. You're finally getting feedback, and it's very direct and personal with these individuals, especially after the Q&As after the film. It's something that you really want to take for as long as possible and have that word of mouth spread about the film. And then, when it gets into those markets later, you can kind of revisit these moments and these different wonderful cities across the United States and see how the life of the film continues afterwards.
So how did you come to be attached to the project? Were you involved from its origins? Did you come along later in the process? I noticed that it was written by Nicole Swinford, who's also a producer on the film. Did she recruit you? Were you guys already in a relationship? Like, how did that come about?
So I already knew Nicole. We were acquaintances. We both were going through the Moving Picture Institute filmmaker program. So they, much like Sundance has their labs, Moving Picture Institute has theirs as well. So it's a talent incubator. So Nicole submitted her feature-length screenplay to their screenwriting workshop, and I had been participating in their directing, cinematography, and their other workshops as well. So I had known the producers at MPI for a number of years, and it was a matter of just staying in front of them and being a high performer in their programs, and just a big fan of theirs. We became good friends. Like Lana Link, one of the producers, she's a friend. Nicole's a friend. The president, Rob Falsgraf, we became friends after this whole experience. Same thing with Nick Reed, who is the executive producer as well. I'd known them for a while, and I met with Lana Link after one of their social networking events, and we had a catch up. And I was telling, for some reason, it was an atypical Hollywood meeting. It wasn't very surface level at all. We actually had a very deep bonding connection in this lunch meeting we had, and we were sharing about parenthood and not knowing our fathers and what that's like, and sharing our perspectives. And then I was taking her on the journey of a lot of the personal things I had gone through in my own life from childhood up until recently. And it was a really fantastic moment. And then the next day she called me. She's like, I can't believe it didn't occur to me at the time. We had such an impactful meeting, and so many parts of your life story are just like this movie, the script Motherland that we just greenlit. We already heard pitches from all these directors. You're kind of this 11th hour ad. If you like the script, would you be willing to pitch it? I said, yeah, absolutely. Send it on over. Do
you want me to pause?
I was looking up Motherland and that person you recognize.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Because I think she needs...
Yeah, Laura's here for a moment. The third film I was going to cover is one, I've talked a little bit about it on social media already. That's one I took my sister Sandra with me to see it, and it is called Battersea. And Sandra actually sent in a review of her own that we're going to include here in the episode. So I'm not going to talk too much about it because I also have an hour-long interview with the two directors and one of the lead actors that I completed just the other day, and that's going to be releasing on the 30th as a bonus episode. This was definitely my favorite feature film. Like of the ones that I saw, this one by far was the best. And I have to say, I think overall it's probably my favorite film I saw, period, in the film festival. Part of that I know may be because it hits me in a season of life where I have just lost a parent, and it kind of hit on two fronts where the parent. So just to talk a little bit about, I'll just read a little blurb about what it is about for those in our audience who have not had a chance or perhaps won't for some time have a chance to see it. The director is TJ Sandella, co-directed by Jad Atkins. Estranged siblings reconvene at their childhood home where they spend a precarious weekend drinking and talking while uncovering the narratives and secrets that have shaped their lives. This film was shot in Hillsborough, North Carolina, post-produced by Honeyhead Films out of Wilmington, North Carolina. And it was preceded by another short film, Mooncat, directed by Joshua Stephen Ling and Kate Price. And we're working on an interview with them, actually. And we got to talk to them at the filmmaker party. So we're working on an interview with them to talk about their short film. So stay tuned for that. That may come out in May, fingers crossed. But we're working out details with them. They did a really good job with that as well. And no cat.
I'm picking.
I'll have to ask them what the significance
I had a conversation with them at the party.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we're so stay tuned for that. But Battersea was just excellent. It's definitely a conversational movie in the vein of the Before series done by Richard Linklater. And to be honest with you, and maybe some of this is just how deeply it connected with me, watching it there with my sister, both of us having gone through the recent loss of our father and watching. That was the reason why I took her to it. I thought it might be cathartic and just a nice connection point for us. And it turned out to also be just an excellent film. This might be, you know me, I don't like to give out 5 nerd hats, but I think this may be the first one that I've given 5 nerd hats to. That's how much I connected with it and just how good I thought the dialogue and the acting and just all the way around excellent film. It's outside of our normal oeuvre, as it were, the normal types of films we cover here, but it's just that good. So if you get a chance to see it, listeners, check it out. Virtually available this week through April 27th. And then they're going to be going to some other festivals. So go to Battersea Film, at Battersea Film on Instagram. Hopefully they'll have some updates there. Also tjsandella.com to see where it might be showing next, or where there might be other virtual showings, or perhaps a festival near you that you can go check it out yourself. So I highly recommend it. Battersea.
I really enjoyed watching Mooncat and Battersea. The storyline was very touching in both movies. Well, the first one was short. 2 sisters and Mooncat grew up together really close, and then life happens, and then it shows them getting back together and working things out. Very sweet. And then in Battersea, the brother and sister were estranged, and they end up meeting together at their old house to help sell it, and then becoming friends through a lot of conversation together. That was very moving and touching, and both of them had me crying a little bit. But yes, very well done. Good for a second, third, and fourth watch. Definitely recommend.
All right. Well, we're almost done here. So I thought we'd finish up talking about the party.
Party.
We all got to go to the filmmaker party. Laura, did you want to chime in with more about the actress?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Do you want to do that?
Jazz will only read.
Oh, shoot. Well, the mic's down there.
Oh.
Well, so Laura, we're going to push one more thing in here. So Laura got a chance to go see the Pantone Guy.
Oh, cool.
I think it's on the floor. Sorry. Yeah, of course. Let me see if I can find it. Do you want to just jump in, or do you want to read the little synopsis?
Okay. Hi, everyone. I've been in the corner painting a lot of little paintings for this upcoming event I'm doing, and I am swamped. So what I would like to say is I squeezed out some time during one of the afternoons during the RiverRun Festival to see the Pantone Guy. And I've heard Pantone. And I've heard of it, never really got into it. Not got into it like it's, drugs or something. I'm really tired. We don't know what I'm going to say. I don't even know what I'm going to say.
I was going to ask if
And
Pantone had anything to do with
I'm
pantomime.
sitting there in the theater and
Okay.
I don't know. I get really excited about. I don't want to hear anything in my ear. Does he saying stuff? Can't you just take this out?
She can't hear me.
Hold
That's
on.
fine.
I
That's
don't know if I
good.
can-
Let's keep talking.
I don't know if I can switch speaker in the middle of it. Let me see.
No, she doesn't need me interrupting her every 5 seconds. Okay.
There we go. I got it.
Where is it here?
Let me find it.
So I was very excited to hear the history of the Pantone Guy, Larry Herbert, who was born during the Great Depression, born in mostly poverty, from what I gathered from the documentary. And he had a mother who stay-at-home mom. Dad was a carpenter, and his mom tried to make things beautiful and there's one funky thing she did was naming the colors of their dinner plates and their dishes. And they're like, this is rose red and this is like symphony teal. And just she kind of planted that idea in his head of naming colors and seeing the beauty in the different values and hues. And as there's so much to this story, but I will go on to say that he created a color matching system, one that could be universal in its in what am I trying to say? Yeah, universal color matching system.
Okay.
What'd you say? What did he say?
I suggested the word application. I'm not sure if that's what you were trying to think of.
Yeah. So he was well versed in the printing press. The printing press at the time could only print one color at a time. This was 19 when he was working there was like 1930s.
Oh, you said printing press. I was
1940s.
thinking like 1600s or something.
No, this is
Okay.
more recent. This is more recent. But at the time, the printing press was only printing one color at a time. It was printing black and white at first, and then he wanted to do more colors because inspiration from his mother. And he reinvented the printing press to not create not just one or two colors, but to print 28 different colors at the same time. So this is when he's rising in the ranks of his company. And I believe it's the Pantone company at the time. And he, from what I remember, he went to school to be a doctor because he wanted to make more than what his dad was making in carpentry, and he wanted a better life for his parents and a better life for his future self. And so he wanted to go into medicine. Is that his typing?
I'm sorry. I decided to look this movie up that we're talking about in the history.
Yeah.
I didn't mean for that to pick up.
It's a great documentary. You're fine. But he got into chemistry, and he was writing this paper on chemistry, and he was like, you know what? I know a lot about printing, and I know a lot about color, so I'll just research and write about the chemistry of color and how there are organic pigments, and then there are like synthetic pigments that you can make using chemistry. And so he had a background in that, and he brought that into the Pantone company. And he later overtakes the company and throws everyone else out and beats all his kids. Sorry, I am so tired. Let's cut that out. Let's cut that out. He eventually becomes the head of the company through lots of hardship, a lot of just a lot of hardship, but he eventually owns it. And this boy's still alive.
What?
It says it here. Okay, I'm not gonna read that. Anyway, so he's 96 now, still alive, still cooking. He has 3 kids. And
Is
it was
he getting royalty for this movie?
I don't think he needs it.
He's almost dead.
Okay.
And he sold he eventually sold the company for 180 million.
Oh yeah, he's good.
He's fine. And no, it was just a beautiful thing just to see the origin of color, and how to make color more of a communication across countries and across America. And it's just a beautiful thing. I really, really enjoyed it.
I bet that revolutionized the comic strip business and newspapers.
There are more Pantone color products than there are Apple products in the world.
Take that, Steve Jobs.
There is.
I'm kidding.
Fuck you. No, he's fine.
Yes.
Whatever that means.
Yes.
He
died. I'm sorry.
There's also a Pantone color of the year. Guys, shush, this is important. There's a Pantone color of the year. I believe it started in the year 2000. The first color was cerulean. I hate that color. I hate that color so much. I have no idea why.
Well, that's the time where you can catch
this
Mewtwo.
year,
And it went over her head.
this year, the Pantone color of the year is, listen, for goodness sake, it is called Mousse Mocha. So look it up. Educate yourself. Educate your eye sockets.
It sounds like a Starbucks drink.
And look up Pantone colors.
I'm sorry.
I'm done. I could say more. I'm done.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thanks for popping over.
I'll stay.
Okay. Well, like in between us, I guess. All right. Well, that closes us out. We did talk a little bit about the filmmaker party earlier. We all all 3 of us had a really good time. Met some new people. Got to know some people we've met on social media a little better, and had some excellent food and some drinks as well. So yeah, it was just a really good time. And do you want to tell them?
Stupid. Are we talking about the same thing?
Who you got to meet?
Yeah, I got to meet David Strathern. And I'm not a huge fan, but I am a huge fan. And I got to shake his hand, and I felt really dumb and excited. So fun stuff. He seems like a cool guy. Seems like I'm just here to chill. No big deal. Yeah,
we think he was sitting with who was probably the director of the film that he had playing that night, and that's Angus McLaughlin, who's based here in Winston. And I'm guessing he has some attachment to UNCSA, but I'm not entirely sure. But it was filmed. The film that they were in was filmed here. Actually, it's right on the other side here. It's called A Little Prayer. Did not get a chance to see that because we had already got the tickets to the filmmakers party, and then A Little Prayer had already sold out. And sadly, it's not screening virtually. I'm guessing it's eventually going to make it to limited theatrical release and probably streaming services as well. It probably already has distribution. It would not surprise me to find out. But yeah, so we did miss that, sadly. But it was cool to get to see David briefly there at the end of the party. So that was fun.
It was a fun environment. People there seemed like they were really excited to be there and just to hang out and to ask questions and to make connections. It was great.
Yeah, we did miss the closing party, but that's okay. We had
because adults. No, sorry.
And we're tired.
It's called parenthood. We can't do 2 parties in within 7 days. No, we have to recoup. We have to take our naps. Good grief. We'll go to another party. No, sorry. I'm sure that was a lovely party. No slam on the coordinator of that party.
I wish I had met more animators at the party, but I don't know if there was any there. I wasn't really sure.
Yeah, and you might not find them on IMDb either. In some of these cases, it just depends on the nature of their work. And so yeah, hopefully we can probably look some of them after the fact up on.
Is this Laura Linney? No, sorry, I got it. Sorry.
No,
never mind.
No, that's Celia Weston, I'm guessing. Oh no, that's not Celia Weston. Jane Levy. I'm looking at the RiverRun catalog in case you didn't know. Anyway, yeah. So A Little Prayer. So stay tuned. I'm guessing it'll make it out either to theaters or to streaming at some point, starring David Strathairn, Celia Weston, Jane Levy, and Will Pullen and Anna Camp. All right, so closing us out here, y'all, give your support to the RiverRun Festival. They are a nonprofit organization. So you can obviously donate money probably year round, I would imagine. And you can follow them on Instagram at RiverRun Film. And they do an excellent job with the festival. I've been meaning to make it out for years. And this year they invited us. So I'm like, well, now I have no excuse.
It was exciting.
And I'm just so glad we got to go. And so give them a follow. And of course, attend next year. And this year, you still got time to check out some of the virtual screenings from the time this episode releases through the 27th. So go take a look at some of the ones we've given you to see or one that grabs your attention. RiverRunFilm.com. So our next regular episode, I should say, we are going to have a bonus episode releasing on the 30th, and that will be my interview with TJ Sandella, Jad Atkins, and Jesse Howland from Battersea. But then the following week on either probably May 6th, I'm not looking at a calendar right now, May 7th. So the first Wednesday in May will be our next regular episode. We'll get back into, I believe it's round 7, and this will be the battle of, if we can get access to these comics, of course, the Batman comics from the Golden Age and the Flash comics from the Golden Age. So something along those lines, whatever we can get access to, Golden Age comics.
I might have to borrow my friend Dan.
Yeah. He may need to be your pinch hitter for that episode. I might need to get a pinch hitter for mine. I don't know. All right. Well, as always, you can find us on Instagram at Nerdhat Pod. You can find us on YouTube, the Nerdhat Podcast, Facebook, the Nerdhat Podcast, and of course, across all of your major podcasting platforms and even some of the minor ones. Our website is nerdhat.buzzsprout.com. You can support us there if you feel so inclined financially. We also have a Patreon. Look us up there, the Nerdhat Podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. And we will hope to be releasing some more episodes soon. We may have some out of the theater reviews coming up. There's quite a few movies. We're about to hit the quote unquote summer season, even though May is not technically summer. They always call it that. The summer movie season's coming out. Thunderbolts is going to kick it off. I'm excited about Thunderbolts. I'm excited about Fantastic Four. I'm excited about Sinners, which is currently Ryan Coogler's current entry into his growing number of films. I'm excited about that. Going to see that. Mickey 17, I want to get caught up with, a Robert Pattinson film. So there's so many things. I'm sure there's some Will and Laura also want to catch up with. So look for more coming on Patreon. And then we have our regular episodes. Yeah, there's a lot coming up. Anyway, connect with us on Patreon. The $1 tier gets you access to the Nerd Hatter Chatter plus all bonus episodes. And there's a couple other tiers above that as well. But there is an ad at the middle of this episode telling us about that. So, going to sign off. Thanks for joining us for our RiverRun special episode. Until next time, Nerd Hatters. Will, that was you cute. Will says sayonara. Live long and prosper. Nerd Hat!